Okay. So James, we've got half people now logged in, so we're maybe going to go ahead and get started and let everybody else just join us in their own time, because I'm conscious of everybody's schedules. So are you okay for us to get started?
Yes, I am very well. Thank you very much.
Good, lovely to see you, and thank you so much for joining us from down under. Am I right? Or do you want to tell everybody where you're currently at in the world?
Well, it's raining here for 4 days and we have floods, but it's 20 degrees and I'm in Australia. And I'm really enjoying it. People are looking at me running around in my shorts and a t-shirt, but at home you'll be running around with 6 coats on.
Absolutely, and all the thermals, etc. So what part exactly, what part of Australia are you currently in, James?
I'm Sydney. I'm in Sydney.
Oh, lovely, excellent. And you've been there for a while, isn't that right, so far?
Since the 19th of December.
Like that was actually for Christmas. The day actually you and I, or the day maybe after you and I had met to have those couple of photographs taken, that's right. So you've been living the life down under since then. Well, thank you firstly very, very much on behalf of MCG Investments and myself for agreeing to take part in this morning's webinar. We are absolutely delighted to have you join us. Today is the first of our latest series of 3 webinars. So no better way than to start with such a irrepressible man like yourself, James. So this should be an interesting webinar for everyone listening in. So thank you for that. So it's all going to be very casual and relaxed, hopefully all been well. There's a few questions that we're going to put to you, a little bit about yourself and Hagan Homes firstly, and then we're going to dive into a little bit more about the world of property, and particularly in Northern Ireland, and some of the challenges that you and other property developers alike are experiencing. For anybody listening in, if you do have any questions that you would like to put to James, please feel free to put them into our chat group, and we will try to put some of those questions to James subject to time. We have already received some questions from various people who have already registered. So we will try to get through as many questions as we can. We're going to try to finish up within the hour, because I'm conscious of everybody's working day. But please do feel free in the meantime to put those questions in, and we'll endeavour to get them as quick as we can. So we'll just get stuck in, James. So for a lot of people maybe listening in or watching this webinar, some of them may not have had the pleasure of meeting with yourself previously, and maybe do not know an awful lot about you. They must have been living under a stone, mind you, if that's the case. But for the sake of anyone not knowing who James Hagan is, would you give us a little bit of background as to who James Hagan is, who the man himself is? A little bit about your background.
Well, it's what time is it here? It's 9:30 at night here, and I'm on my 3rd glass of wine. So I just don't want you all to feel bad out there sitting in the cold of Northern Ireland. But I come from a wee town called Duch. I call it a city. I was born and reared there on the farm. Mum and Dad, Jim and Peggy, and I went to Ballytar High School, and then I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to be get my A levels. The minimum A levels, I might remind you, to go to Queen's University to do agriculture. I had no interest in agriculture, and I retired. Now the word is retired after 3 years. Oh. Some people think I got thrown out, but I'd like to say I retired. I had no job. I started to go to England to buy caravans. There's a bit of a tipsy in me as well, and brought them into Northern Ireland. And then in 1986, I split up with my brother in the caravans. My brother Sam Hagan was in the caravans with me. He's still doing Hagan Niger. Then I went on my own, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. I started. My brother-in-law Nigel Simpson started to work for me, and we called it Hagan and Simpson Developments. I had a site for a house in Duch. I got it passed for 12 apartments, and that's how Hagan Homes started. Oh, wow. And then in '96, my brother-in-law Nigel and I split, parted company. you know what families are like, but we're friendly again.
Good.
And he's building away on his own as Simpson Developments, and I have Hagan Homes.
Excellent, very good. So that is where it all started some 34 years ago now.
Yep. I had hair then.
A lot of things have changed that has caused I have no doubt the stresses of that type of industry. And you mentioned your parents there, Jim and Peggy, who, am I right in saying, were a big influence in your life, and in particular maybe carving out the person that you have become today in business. Would that be fair to say?
You don't realize whenever you're younger, I used to go to the markets with my dad and he was buying cattle and pigs and stuff. You don't realize what you're learning from watching your dad. He was the wheeler dealer. My mum was the business head. They were a brilliant team. My dad unfortunately passed away at 62, which I thought he wasn't very old at the time, but now I realize he was very young. But and my mum was a great influence on me after that. And she died 3 years ago.
Yes,
but she was always an influence and interested in what I was doing, taught me the world of bookkeeping and tax and everything like that. And she was always very interested in what I did.
And was she involved in your business at all in any shape? Other than being
no, she wasn't, but she lived on the premises. My office is at the farm where she lived. If I didn't report into her, she got a bit annoyed. So she always knew everything I was doing, but she never told me.
Oh, very good. That, as you say, that influence from parents is so unbelievably important, and yet often you don't even realize it's a subconscious lessons that you're learning throughout the years, which you don't come to realize how important they are till many years have gone by, and how important that influence is on you. What particular qualities would you have said that your mother instilled on you, or any valuable particular lessons that stand out to you now that you would maybe still use to this day?
I think stupid things that have been brought up in a country area. My dad always says, "Now, son, if you're ever going to lie to people whenever you're doing business, you have to remember one thing." And I says, "What's that, Dad?" "You must have a hell of a good memory."
Yeah.
Because you have to remember what the lies were.
All the different lies.
I always remember him telling me that. And it's just been straight with people and enjoying work. I feel that I've never worked a day in my life because it was enjoyment. And I feel that there's a lot of people out there, I'm not who am I to give people advice to, but if they're not happy in a job, move on to another job, because we're here. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time.
I 100% totally and utterly agree with you, and that's very much similar to my own views. I mean, I have went through, like I'm sure lots of people listening in, so many different pathways of jobs, etc., which I didn't like and didn't enjoy. And life is too short when you spend so many hours in work. Whereas now I found my passion, like yourself, in property, and feel like I've never worked a day since the start. It doesn't mean to say there's not stressful days, as I'm sure you've had, but that comes with life in general.
Yeah, but you get on with it.
Absolutely. And so, but you said there then, so the first property you bought, you converted it into 12 apartments. So where did Hagan Homes go from there then? Can you give us a little bit of background about the growth and the scale of Hagan Brown or Hagan Homes?
We learned a lot from them. We worked out of a porta-cob next door to my mum's house, and I always remember the coffee cups were never cleaned. They were always dark brown inside. We didn't have a kitchen, but we were a very happy lot. And when we bought another site, we did a bit of contracting work and then we stopped that. And we walk before we run. And I say anybody that's having a business, don't try and set the world on fire. And whenever we're younger, we think, well, most people are younger than me now, but whenever you're younger, you think the bigger you get, the more money you make, the more successful you are. No, if you can keep a small team and run it very efficiently, you will be much happier and you will do very well.
And on that small team, you do have quite a, for the size of Hagan Homes as a business, the actual core team is quite a small team of 11. Am I correct?
Yeah, we have 11 people. They're absolutely brilliant. I can't say anything else, but they are brilliant. But they are, and some of them were with me from day one, from 1986, and they say I'm getting crankier, and I tell them they're getting crankier. But it's a loyal team, and we run it as in an old-fashioned way. All this politically correctness, I believe in it, that there's things have gone wrong with people being employed and things, but we have a bit of fun. Yeah. And we joke with each other. And I think that's a lot to do with business, where we go into work and we want to go into work.
Yeah. And you want to be comfortable and feel like you can have humor when you're spending, you often spend more hours in work with your colleagues than you do in your home. So you want to be able to have fun while doing that and make it enjoyable. Yeah. Well, the fact that you've got employees that are still with you 30 years later, speaks volumes for you, James, obviously, as an employer. So you're clearly not that scary when they're still there. So something's working.
It can be.
And so a question, what would you say, or is there, maybe you're going to say no straight away, what is the single biggest mistake or lesson that you would say you, James Hagan, has learnt in business, for which you were solely responsible for? So you can't blame anybody else to take the fall. Is there anything that neither one is a mistake, or equally a lesson that would stand out to you?
Well, I suppose if we weren't on air, I could tell you a lot of mistakes, but I wouldn't want to say them on air. But the biggest mistake I made, I have a great saying, fail fast and fail cheaply. If you're going to fail, do it at the time. I invested in a business about 5 years ago, quite a lot of money, and I lost all the investment, lost a whole lot. And what I did wrong was, faraway fields look green.
Yeah.
And I thought I've done very well. I can never make a mistake. We all can get overconfident at times, and you must have confidence. And I lost the investment. And, I think the best way to explain it is, faraway fields look green. Stick to what you know best. We can change our ways and take a different fork in the road, but don't go into something you don't know anything about, because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Stick to what you know best.
That was a valuable lesson, no doubt, then.
Yeah, very.
Very good. That's interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, as you say, we're all capable and all will have, and no doubt will again make mistakes. I suppose it's just, as you've rightly so said, you made the mistake and you've learned a valuable lesson from that. So, you'll not go down that road again, which is, absolutely. We're now doing that every day, but it's a great.
And if you don't make mistakes, you never get anywhere. You make small. That was the biggest mistake I've ever made. But I made many and many a mistake. But it's another thing of saying, a bad decision is better than no decision at all. And I think that's what's wrong with the younger generation. They're not allowed to make mistakes.
I know.
Their bosses don't allow them to make mistakes. And there's somebody about to chop the legs off them. Like, and work, we have a bit of fun. Somebody makes a mistake and we never want to admit we make a mistake. And I would give them a bit of banter and I say, well, I could say it much stronger than this, but you made a mess of that. And eventually say, well, I did. Well, what would you do the next time?
Yeah.
That's what is lost in life nowadays, I think, a lot.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit like, I suppose, the whole Instagram life, reality. Yeah, it's where people are trying to strive for perfection, which doesn't exist. And that's absolutely correct. And it's not real. And it's something that you do fear for. I fear for my kids, and I'm sure for the younger generation coming along. Okay, so you've obviously just told us that you're currently in Sydney. Can I ask then, at the minute, are Hagan Homes starting to venture further afield? Are we starting to look at new builds in Australia, or are you solely there to enjoy yourself and enjoy that lovely sunshine? I know there's been a rain.
No, well,
what's Hagan Homes plans?
I've been here about 3 years in a row. My partner Anne's son and granddaughter live here. I got her to invest in Belfast about 5 or 6 years ago, a few apartments and things. But I've been looking around here, and actually just on Friday, I agreed a site in Australia, south of Sydney. Okay. And it's like it's like being an 18-year-old again. I still have the backup from the team, but I've got a planning consultant, I've got an accountant, I've got a business, a company set up, and I'm looking forward to it. and it's meeting people again. Maybe in a way I lost, because of the team and our business got bigger, I wasn't sort of talking to people all the time that I would have been
the way you were
in the early days.
Yes.
And now I'm out here on my own, and I'm actually enjoying. I love the Australian people. There's no bullshit shit out of them. There's no class system out here, generally speaking. And people are and I've met a planning consultant, and they have the same problems out here that they have at home. 90% of the regulations here are the same as at home, but they have slightly different problems. And I'm actually quite enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to developing a site out here. And
so how many units is that particular site for?
Well, actually, it's the old walk before you run. It's a site for one unit, and
very good.
I'm getting it passed for 2. I'm looking at another one, which is 1 unit getting it passed for 4. And that's what I say to anybody out there. If they're starting up a business, walk before you run, and make all your mistakes in a small way.
Yeah, well, that's really good, because I suppose that'll give you an idea and a feel for how all systems work out there. And I'm sure, which we'll come on to shortly, no doubt, Sydney, Australia will have their own challenges of sorts, whatever that may be, similar to Northern Ireland. And so I suppose if you start small, you can find out about those along the way without it, without it being a huge fall.
It's about
multiple units.
It's about 2 hours south of Sydney, but Sydney I compare to London. London, I have always said, is a different country because of the price of property. Sydney's the same, but if you go outside, Sydney itself, there's more normality. What I would say.
Okay, excellent. That'll be interesting. So it's a case of watch this space till we see the Sydney branch of Hagan Homes develop over the next few years, possibly. Okay, so just coming back to Northern Ireland, you had your 30th anniversary in 2018, where you had announced a very high ambitious plan to build approximately 2,000 new homes in Northern Ireland over the next 10 years. Fast forward, that plan was in place. Then we come to September 21, 34 years in business. On the face of it, Hagan Homes are still going strong. And then all of a sudden in September 21, the bombshell announcement comes that Hagan Homes are pulling out of Northern Ireland market in terms of building. Can you bring us up to speed and give us some of the contributing factors that led to that announcement, which obviously shocked quite a lot of people?
Well, one of the things that led to it was, I have a great saying, I've had too many birthdays. And I never did suffer fools gladly, but my patience just run out. And I felt for the ones in work that were chasing after people. It used to be that every application was looked at on its own merits, with a presumption of in favour of development at home. And you used to go and see the planner, and it wasn't, people say to me, brown envelopes, that's a load of nonsense. You went to see the planner and you said, what do you not like about it? He said, well, there's drop 3 houses and put it back in. Now you go to the planners and they say, what do you not like about it? Well, you just put in another plan application and see what we think about it. You need a bit of infrastructure. They're always saying you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. And it's usually the same department. And every time looking for the developer to make financial contributions when they should be doing it out of their own budget, I think. And it's the same all over the UK in that respect. Councillors, aldermen, council officials, even at director level, people are not being listened to by planning department officials, which is the reason why so many cases are being overturned. The planning department seems to be going, give me a reason, or I'll give you a reason to say no, not a reason to say yes. We need houses in Northern Ireland. Yeah. And the more investment, the more risks, the more rates, the people have it for ratepayers. The planning department is supposed to be a part of the council, yet the planning officials, now I'll get into trouble with this, I don't care anymore. The planning officials believe they are separate from the council. Yeah. Some planning department officials forget I'm being very blunt here, they are civil servants. the clue is in the name. They're supposed to serve the public. Now, and I should say, not all the planning departments are the same. There's some very good ones. Don't get me wrong. There are 3 councils that are continually problematic in Northern Ireland. 3 of them, because of 1 or 2 bad planning officers. I'm not here to name and shame.
No, I don't need to.
But they know who they are, and they work across all councils in Northern Ireland, and they know who they are. Most are afraid to raise the issues because they're afraid of the same officers causing them the same problems. Most builders are afraid to, because I have an example. I can give you plenty of examples. We have a situation where one application was held up deliberately, I will say deliberately, by a planning officer for 3 years.
Now, why would you say deliberately, James, as in, like, you know, why would a planning official...
They just want to be, sorry, I don't want to get too emotional here. No. They just want to say no. They have power and they can say no. And whatever background they come from, the power is important. Power was never important to me and else. I'm not saying I don't have them faults. They deliberately are ignoring the MPs and ignoring the MLAs. Like, we've had it so many times, and the councillors, they're even ignoring the general public.
Yeah.
The representatives of the planning committee saw what the planning officer was doing wrong in our particular case, and they overturned the decision. The council overturned the planner's decision, but the planner wouldn't listen to the council. However, because the officer's nose is now out of joint, they are causing us a bloody nightmare.
So they're going more, you know, more.
And this is in Belfast. This is in Belfast. And that is wrong, but no one seems in a position to question the authority of the planning officers, who are simply not doing their job right. And they are a law unto themselves, and until these specific officers are brought to book, the system will be continued for the unfit for its use. And another one is the Coleraine one. I will never buy, well, I'm not buying any more sites in Northern Ireland. I decided 2 years ago not to buy another site in Coleraine. Like, we have a building control application in, we put in last August in Coleraine. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, they usually building control are brilliant. They come back within 4 weeks. They have a few questions. We have to sort them out about the drawings aren't right. This was last August. We still haven't it sorted. Yeah, I had to go back to him in January. And they said, because of COVID. And I'm going, oh, sorry, because of COVID. Oh, yes, people are working from home. That means people don't work so hard from home. And they said, no, well, that's not what I said, Mr. Hagan. And I went, hold on a minute. Well, why would COVID make any difference? This guy was not doing his job and didn't bother his ass. It took us 6 months to get a building control drawn, which should take 6 weeks.
And James, do you think, is this down to, do you think a couple of things? Is it lack of training of the planning officers themselves, you know, within the council? Do you think, has this situation deteriorated since the responsibility of planning has moved from the Northern Ireland Planning Office to the local councils? Do you feel like that process has deteriorated?
No.
You think, is it, so this is a historical similar?
The people doing their jobs in the civil service, it's only, any department is only as good as their boss.
Yeah.
And if their boss is not leaning on them and doesn't know what's happening, whenever I reported Coleraine, the guy didn't even know. And I'm going, well, if I'm a shit boss, all my staff will end up being shit, and nobody will give a damn about anything. And it's just I had a mate who worked in the civil service, and not say what department all his life. He's retired now. He's my mate from when he was 11. And he says, you know what I love about this job, James? And I says, well, yeah, I'll never get fired. You just don't get fired out of the civil service. And they're not answerable to anybody. And nobody's, I know it's hard to make people redundant, but there is really, the majority of people are good workers in the civil service.
Yes.
But there's a big percentage who don't care.
Yeah, there seems to be a real detachment where people that are actually carrying out the planning job don't seem to really be in touch. You know, it's not completely gelled together where the right hand's talking to the left hand. And I'm sure that you have, James, I'm sure maybe you've seen or you've at least heard of the recent report carried out by the Northern Ireland Audit Office, which very clearly indicated that pretty much the Northern Ireland planning system isn't working efficiently. And so one of the questions that we've received in on this point, so I'm just going to ask it here now, who has come in from Tom Stokes of TSA Planning, who I'm sure.
I know Tom.
Yep. Yeah. So Tom would say, is obviously acknowledging the same report carried out in the Northern Ireland Audit Office and has stated about how it clearly indicates that there's a major overhaul, to put it mildly, needed done to the whole planning system. So Tom's question to you on that is, if you could do one thing to help improve the planning system in the short term, James, what would that be? And what would how would you go about doing it? Or, is there one thing you could possibly suggest that you feel that they should be doing today that would help in the short term? That's from Tom.
Fire the lazy people, number one.
Well,
number two. No, you asked me a question and I'm telling you the truth.
Fair enough.
And a lot of the people in it don't want to make a decision. They're not allowed. Years ago, you made a decision, and I know planners who have retired now, who I get on really well with, and they would say to me, we made mistakes, but how are you going to make mistakes? Now, this COVID thing, another thing I would say to the House on the Hill, or whatever they want to call themselves, they have not recommended people to go back to work.
No.
Back to the office. What a load of nonsense I have never heard in my life. If you want to learn to do your job, you learn it in an environment where you're talking to other people and you say to your guy on the other desk, it's like, I have a problem here. And I'm not saying they should be back 5 days a week. My staff wanted to come back and they want to come back. I think a lot of them are back 5 days, some of them are back 3 days. How are you going to learn to do your job if you're sitting at home? And the other problem with them sitting at home is, which really, really upsets me, one guy I know, I said to him, he said, I'm saving a lot of money working from home. And I said, you don't have to travel, you don't buy lunches. No, I don't have to pay for childcare. You have 3 kids under 5. How can you work? How can you work? You know what I'm talking about. How can you work from home? Now, the Bank of England, and I'm saying this to people in Stormont, and they'll not like me for it. The Bank of England in London, if you have kids and you're working from home, you have to prove you're paying childcare. And I think that's a brilliant, simple idea.
Yeah.
So anybody in the civil service or in private sector, prove to me you're still paying childcare. I know you can work at home. You can't work at home with 3 kids under 5.
No, you absolutely don't. No, I totally understand and appreciate that there are people out there. I'm not one of them personally, but that doesn't mean to say there isn't. That there are people who are very afraid of COVID, and we don't know what their personal circumstances are, or family around them. There are people.
Yes, I would totally agree.
Yeah. But at the same time, I get as well that unfortunately, we do have to move on in the world and we have to learn to live with COVID. And in order for the economy to get moving on, then we all need to get back to work and continue doing it, and we can all incorporate our own personal protection if we want to wear masks.
Yeah. No, I'm not taking away from the COVID.
No, I know you're not.
My financial director has 3 kids. Very young, and he said, it's been a nightmare whenever they were in lockdown and he was working and stuff. And he says, I had to work between 7 and 12 every night, because I couldn't work during the day with the kids. He was being honest.
Yeah, absolutely, but he still did the work. Absolutely.
Yes.
But I don't think it still makes up, and we've even had a comment here on the chat box, and I'll come to that in a second and read it out, but about how important it is and how much more effective work gets done when you're working in an office with people. You're bouncing ideas off each other, you're brainstorming, and you're sorting out problems. I totally agree with that. And for example, one of the people mentioned here in the chat box has said how they had a placement student work in their offices with them, and that she had learned way more in 26 weeks working with them placement than she did in 3 years in university. So that is highlighting working with people and dealing with problems on a day-to-day basis as they arise. The only thing I'm going to go back as well is say that the issue with planning, from what I'm hearing you're saying, it was there before COVID though as well. COVID may have obviously escalated it. but the problem has been there prior to that. So, and I know you're saying about firing the lazy people, but on a practical level, not everybody knows who the lazy people are, and you know, you're working with somebody.
Agree.
So, is it a case like, do you still think that it should be run by the individual councils, or do we need to go back to it being, first of all, should it be run privately? And should it be brought back to Stormont as a standalone department that runs it and nothing to do with the councils? Have you any thoughts on that?
Back in the day, the planners, I'm sorry, I'm maybe not answering your question, but back in the day, the planners, if I ring a planner now, I get an answer machine and they have 48 hours to get back to me. Years ago, I rung a planner, can I come in and see you? And you met them for a cup of coffee. And about 10 years ago, I remember taking a planner out and I bought him a sandwich and he says, oh, I can't take a sandwich. I went, why? He says, we're not allowed to. And I'm going, what the name of God is all this about? But back in the day, you met the guy and he told you what would help. He wasn't telling you how to do your job, but he said, look, if you change this to this, we'll have a more favorable view on it. He wasn't doing me any favors. But now they're saying, they don't give you an answer, they'll put it back in again. And I think it comes from the top. I'm a great believer it comes from the top. And there's some great planners out there. Do not get me wrong. There's some great ones out there. But they're nearly scared to talk to you.
Yeah, it seems like that old school where the is gone, where political correctness is taken over, as you say. If we can't take a sandwich from you in case it's deemed to be bribery, and you're trying to get them to do something that's not actually right for you. So, obviously there's the issues there with planning, which has clearly been identified by the Northern Ireland Audit Office as well. Are you saying it was solely to do with the planning system that Hagan Homes made the decision to pull out of Northern Ireland, just out of sheer frustration because of that reason, or is there any other reasons along with the planning system?
Northern Ireland Water, Northern Ireland Electricity, not the gas. The gas we've never had a problem with. Northern Ireland Water is a dinosaur. That's all I would describe them. And I can't stand them. They're using the housing situation, shortage of housing, to get at, I believe, to get at Stormont to get more money. Now they need more money. I do not disagree with that. But they're saying to us every time we put an application in or apply for a site, or even before, we have to do it now before we buy a site, £1,500 to do a water impact assessment, and they have hundreds and hundreds of these. They know this information before we even put this in, but they're charging us £1,500, and they're using us, and they're doing we had a site in Hollywood, 33 apartments. We decided there's a place there where we can build 2 more apartments. We're trying to make best use of the land, sell the apartments at a reasonable price. They come back and said, we cannot increase it to 35. And I'm going, why? Well, there's 2 more. This is the whole of Hollywood. As if that's 2 more crazy. Toilets will make a difference.
That's crazy.
We had to pay the £1,500.
Yeah.
We had to lift manholes to find out information for them. And we did it, and we got 2 more houses. Now, that is now years ago, I know somebody very well in Northern Ireland Water. Years ago, unofficially, they had a 10% increase they were allowed to give.
Yeah.
But they're not even giving a 1% anymore. But they're making life hell for us.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that myself. I mean, obviously, MCG, we're a very small company compared to like Hagan Homes, but we have acquired a number of sites in the last year, and we can't even get to the stage of having the challenge of planning because of the wastewater issue. And for the very reason you've just said, in order to even have a conversation with somebody, we can't even lift the phone to a water engineer and without them saying, get the PDE in or get the wastewater impact assessment in, as you say, £1,500 at a time. It just seems a ridiculous situation. And as I've said,
and we know people we're dealing with in Northern Ireland Water here, very good people and very hardworking people. But they're told by their bosses, and all they're interested in is the dividend or whatever way they work now as a private or company. All they're interested in is the money, but it's not this 10%. Like two apartments extra in a development of 33. Like, it's total nonsense.
It sounds like, I mean, absolutely ridiculous, ludicrous. But
a year, it took us a year. It took us 1 year to sort that out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, think you can't run a business and progress with that. But what I will say, James, is that if we genuinely are, which is what we've been told, that the Northern Ireland water systems the sewers are at full capacity, then, you know, if it's at full capacity, it's at full capacity. And
hold on. They're saying they're no, but in many areas they are. Yes. But there's no gray area at all. You can't run a business black and white. And they are putting the pressure on Stormont, and they're shutting the doors for us building houses to get at Stormont to give them more money. That is my belief. Mm-hmm. Now, they can say whatever they want. They're using the house builders to get at Stormont to get whatever money that they think they need. Now, Stormont should have dealt with this 10, 20 years ago. Oh, I'm a great believer. I'm also a great believer, and this will annoy a lot of people. And the rest of the UK, you have water rates. I'm a great believer. It should happen. Now, my partner Anne lives in London, and I'll tell you an exact story that I was brought up in the country and brought up on the farm, and you were turning out the lights and all the rest of it. But whenever I'm in her house in London, I turn the tap off.
And you're more conscious of it.
Yeah, because she's paying for the water.
Yes.
The people at home, I don't think of that whenever I'm at home, and that's me personally.
Yeah.
They have to have water rates at home.
Yeah, I mean, I probably personally would be, and I know it's not popular, probably would be of the same view that I do think we need to pay for them for the exact reason that because of what we're in now. The only problem is that we're 10 years too late talking about this, because even if a blank check was given to Northern Ireland Water tomorrow, you still wouldn't be able to resolve the problem and have the infrastructures in place to remedy the problem we're facing. I mean, again, and so another question on that point, which I'm going to put to you, that has come in from Paul McAlean of MC Public Relations. Paul has asked, but James, what would you do if you were in charge of Northern Ireland Water today? And obviously you've said that's another one of the reasons that you've had a pull out of Northern Ireland. But if you're in Northern Ireland Water, have you got any suggestions that you would like to, that you would like to put to Northern Ireland Water?
Paul never did like me, No.
Well, that's for another day.
No, I don't know. That's a joke. Northern Ireland Water are ruled by how much money they make, and I don't know how you care. It's all about money. Yeah, totally. They've proved it with everything they're doing with the developers, and they're making excuses for this, that, and the other. They're not spending any money on infrastructure. They haven't done in the last 20. They'll deny that, but they could have spent. They're paying out big dividends. They're paying out money to their investors. It's about pleasing their investors. That's my belief.
Yeah.
I'm sure I got a lot of nasty phone calls tomorrow, but I don't really care.
No, at the end of the day, you're entitled to your opinion 100%.
Yeah.
And, and one of the objectives and one of the reasons why I reached out to you to speak to you about this is because you'd obviously come out and said that you're pulling out a building in Northern Ireland, which to me is an absolute travesty, should not be happening. In one hand, we have our politicians telling us how bad the problem is with the shortage of housing in Northern Ireland. Yep. Obviously, it's a UK-wide problem as well, but here in Northern Ireland, so they're telling us about how they're trying to tackle this housing shortage supply, and yet then there's property developers like yourselves who have huge ambitious targets to build home to help solve that problem, and yet then you're stopped in your stride and you just cannot move forward.
We own sites at the moment where we can build 200 houses.
You have what, sorry?
We own sites at the moment where we can build 200 houses.
Okay.
We have other sites as well. These 200 houses we cannot not build for at least 3 years because we can't get sewage. Yeah. 200 houses, but we could go on the site tomorrow and build.
Yeah,
because of this. Now, the Northern Ireland Water need money. Don't get me wrong; they need money. Yeah. But I don't believe if they would invest their money a bit better, that they need as much as what they're using the house builders for.
So, and do you think sitting now today Is there any solution in the short term to help the likes of yourself move forward with that? Because today obviously is about calling out these issues and challenging, you know, the various statutory bodies about getting resolving this problem. But at the same time, we also have to, instead of just doing a blame game, we also have to kind of come up with suggest solutions and how we all together as stakeholders can, you know, maybe come together to help progress things forward.
Around the table meeting with bigger house builders, Northern Ireland Water and MLAs, there's nowhere for anyone to run. And that's what I would say. Get them round the table. Everybody's sitting there answering their questions.
Yeah.
And I can accuse this one of this, and he can say, no, you're talking nonsense. Unless you get them round the table, there's nowhere for any. Like it's a bit like work. You know what it's like. If you have a problem at work and they're each blaming each other, bring them into a room. Right, folks, what's the problem?
That's actually a very good idea. Yeah, I mean, let's just.
It's simple. It's simple.
Yeah. So so you'd be in favour for coming back and sitting down at roundtable talks with other developers and the various planners, head of planning, head of Northern Ireland Water, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, that would be. As I say, there's nowhere for anybody to run. And as long as people don't take offense, if I say, like, you're talking nonsense to you in that meeting, you say, hold on, I'm not, because A, B, and C. It's gone back to the old ways of sitting down, sorting the blooming thing out and getting on with it.
Yeah.
Rather than everybody blaming everybody else. Maybe I sound as if I'm blaming everybody else. And I am.
Well,
I can't get meetings with people.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is brilliant, and you know, I certainly, you know, applaud you for coming out and saying it, because I think part of the problem is that not enough people are talking about it, and they're not calling out the various statutory departments on this, because we all collectively need to be calling them out and getting this moving, because, you know, we've been too long that the Stormont has been reactive instead of proactive, and now look at the mess we're going to end up in.
But what Stormont doesn't realise is, whenever, and I don't care anymore, I honestly don't care anymore, that I stand up and speak. We are getting crucified at the minute because I've stood up and spoke. Mm-hmm. And I don't care. I says, well, I tell you, do, just get on with it, boys. We'll fight. We have a lot of sites to do this for the next 5 years, which we're going to build out. And we're fighting over all of them. But I don't care. Like, everybody's blaming everybody else. And life, you can't get on with life like that. You must stand up and just say, like, we have cases where, and maybe if I was a civil servant and I had some builder give me a hard time and went in media and said this, that, and the other, oh, I'll get him the next time around. They're going to run out of customers. Yeah. And that's what I just don't care about anymore. That they put you to the bottom of the list. And it's a fact. We have cases where we can prove it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a good situation, and certainly not the way you want a business running. And I'm sure Northern Ireland Water and Northern Ireland Planning would not want it to be described like that either. You know, there's something fundamentally wrong with both. You've said there, just to mention again back, that you've got a number of sites to keep you going for the next 5 years. So just to clarify, Hagan Homes are going to continue completing and finishing out.
Oh yes, no, and I don't want anybody that's got houses. We have the NHBC have the 10-year guarantee. We're still working away and completing the sites. I would love that it could change in the next couple of years, and we would end up still being there in 10 years' time. I'd probably not care too much about it, and I might not even be here. But
you are now. You're not.
but what I'm saying is that Northern Ireland has been very good to Hagan Homes. And I feel that we have regenerated a lot of areas in Belfast. And we went to a lot of areas where people said we were mad. Yeah. And I would love to get back into that situation again. We worked very well with the housing executive, and we've built all these houses. But I would love to buy property again in Northern Ireland. And I think it could be sorted, but I think the MLAs have to turn around and say to civil servants, look, hold on a minute, we need to do something about this. And they're not even listening to MLAs. I know MLAs who have gone to civil servants, and whenever the council overturns a planning application, that is totally wrong. The planners should do right by the people, and then the council have to turn it over because the planners have said no.
Yeah, I mean, that just what you're saying there is right. I mean, your history, the communities that Hagan Homes have gone into to work, what you've done for Northern Ireland, let alone the huge charitable contribution that Hagan Homes as a company and the amount of charities that you guys have supported in the last couple of years has been simply outstanding and absolutely incredible. And you've built, I'm reading some of them out here, the places that you have built homes in Rathcoole, Kiltully, Strathboyle, in areas that maybe people would have never even wanted to go near, yet you have done it and they've succeeded. You've got obviously the development there, 76 South and Donegal Road, as you say, 20 years ago nobody would have went near that.
No.
And you're developing out those homes. So and fair play to you for saying that Stormont and the government in Northern Ireland in general have been good to Hagan Homes. Hagan Homes have also been good to the communities in Northern Ireland. So on that note, I'm just going to ask, and then we'll start to wrap up, a question in from Emma O'Neill, who said here, if the councils get their act together with regards to planning and then on obviously Northern Ireland Water as well, would Hagan Homes be happy to come back and start building again?
No problem whatsoever.
Yeah, is that something, James, you would actually want to genuinely really do?
No, I don't want to leave the place. I'm a home bird. I brought up in a wee farm in Doak, and I have my friends there. I'm enjoying being in Australia, and I'm enjoying a different challenge. But my heart's in Northern Ireland.
Yes. So you don't even want to be making this announcement, which is an absolute travesty.
No.
You had to in the first instance. It's just terrible. Well, you know what? After this call, you never know what will happen. We could maybe try. It's something we could look into. I'm a huge believer in looking for the solutions to things. So that you've maybe set me a bit of a challenge now after this, that we can try and maybe get developers like Hagan Homes around for discussions around the table.
But I think all developers are the same. And they all want it sorted. They don't want to be fighting with the planners, and they don't want to be fighting because life's too short. Like, we're here for a good time, not a long time. And you only realize that whenever you're older.
And you can't, and we also can't sit back and say, oh, well, that's the way it is, and you're not going to be able to change it. If we all individually say we're not going to be able to change it, then certainly nothing will change. So I think if we all come together, as you rightly so say, in a very simple exercise, granted, I know there will be people listening going, good luck to you trying to get those guys on the phone. Well, that's fine. We'll take the luck, and we'll still try and knock on a few doors and make that conversation happen. A question has come in here slightly off what we've been talking about, but equally very, very important in today's world. And it's come from Kieran Devine from Evermore Energy. He's said here, first of all, he's acknowledging and recognising a fascinating insight into Hagan Homes, and has very much wants to pass on his thanks to you for that, James. He also wanted to know what your views are on sustainable development and the future of property development and moving into kind of net zero territory. Is that something Hagan Homes have started to look at as yet?
Yeah, we have. And I've
curveball there, by the way, just asking that kind of question.
A full name of a guy here, Australia Green Homes, and a guy, Nick Faber-Jones, who was a captain of the 91 Australian team. I fell in with him at a pub one day. so small a world. And he's associated with Australian Green Homes. And I've been talking to the guy who runs that. And he wants to get into the UK. I'm going to do a development with the Green Homes, which is sustainability, upgrading insulation, and we're doing the homework with our team to see what we need to do to get to his standards. One of the things I said to him was, I think I've got a slight problem because we have first-time buyer homes. He says, James, he's franchised it to America and New Zealand. He says, James, we have a problem with that. And I says, what's your problem? First-time buyers want value.
Yes.
And now we have a very high standard in the UK for building control, but first-time buyers want standard and they buy it on a price. And he's saying second, third-time buyers who are interested more. They'll pay 5,000 more for, now paying 5,000 more for a house at 300 grand is not the same as paying 5,000 more for a house at 125.
Exactly.
So they're doing,
all relative.
so we are looking at that, and he's hoping to do Australia Green Homes, UK Green Homes, with one of our sites in Northern Ireland in the next 6 months. So we're looking at it, but it's again, and I'd looked at it, you know, whenever you buy your first house, you're so pleased with having your first house, you don't really care about, you know, the heat going out the windows or whatever. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but
no, but that's from, I suppose that's where the responsibility then will maybe come back on to us, you know, as developers, because the first time buyer, as you say, they're more excited about about what color they're going to do their kitchen and the nice stuff. We've all been when we were younger, and that's absolutely fine. It's certainly not to be criticized.
And we're all in love with that age and all the rest of it, and that's more important.
Yeah, and it is at that stage of your life. It is, but I suppose from our perspective as developers, then I suppose the onus is on us to be responsible and maybe automatically incorporate that eco friendly element to the building, and the first time buyer is automatically buying it without even realizing it. And you know, so I think they're in the world.
And I know you seem to be in the eco friendly, but looking at that picture behind you there, the houses aren't very eco friendly there, are they?
You like that? Yes, absolutely. That was an awesome painting that my husband had bought me in the middle of COVID to kind of keep me motivated to think that I will get back out into some lovely public pub venues again when it's all over. It worked, and I have frequented quite a few of them since to make up for supporting the hospitality industry, of course. Well, James, I'll probably kind of come near to the end of it. I'm going to wrap it up here now. We've hopefully, I think we have got to ask a lot of the questions that people have put to us. Some have come through. We haven't had to, but I'm conscious of time. We're almost coming to up on the hour, and I know you're
trying to hold off.
I was going to say, and you have a glass of wine or possibly a bottle of wine there to get finished up on. So I don't want to hold you back from that. Your story, the journey about James Hagan as a businessman and the company Hagan Homes has been absolutely fascinating to listen to and great insight. And I personally like to thank you very, very much for coming on today. And
one thing, sorry, I'm interrupting you. One thing I would like to say, just they're saying about interest rates going up on mortgages and things.
Yes.
And people are panicking and not knowing what's going to happen. And this is maybe a biased opinion, but mortgages, 80 or 90%, I've just checked up, of mortgages are fixed for the next 2 to 5 years.
Yes.
And I don't think in the short term interest rates going up are going to affect a lot of people. It will, but they're not going to go up that much. And there's a bit of scaremongering going on. Now, if they go up to 5 or 6%, yes, people have a right to be concerned. And the other thing was the rated houses. They're bringing in a new law about rentals. You have to be EPC rated. I think that's a good thing as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Rental properties. And I think people out there shouldn't be panicking too much because people are saying it's £5,000 or £10,000 to upgrade your house so you can rent it. I don't think it's as bad as that. I think if you do a lot of the basic things like insulate the roof space and things, and I'm just saying that to other people who may be listening, that check up on that and see what they need to do to upgrade them. I think in the world today, we get all the scaremongering. There's never good news.
No, there is, and that's what the media like to report on, and you have to kind of filter it down and read between the lines that it's maybe not as bad as it's been made out to be, and focus in on your own specific area and what we can do. Well, I mean, it's been a really good, candid conversation with you, James. You very much relayed and communicated your own frustrations on behalf of Hagan Homes. And obviously your frustrations with maybe the public servants maybe not working. There's lots of things to be discussed. And I really hope that other developers out there possibly listening in or hear of this, that maybe we can have more honest conversations like this with the relevant bodies with the view to trying to progress Northern Ireland forward. Because I personally am a big supporter of Northern Ireland, love Northern Ireland, and really want the housing market to grow and progress a lot better than it has been. So I think together, if we can all come together to have chat about this, we can maybe look at how we can move things forward and improve the situation.
I think it's come back to what I said. get everybody around the table, and throw it all out, and don't get insulted if I say whatever or somebody says something. Like, it's problem solving. It's not problem making. That's
exactly the note that I'd like to end on, that because that's solely what the objective of today's conversation was. I wanted to highlight the challenges that are really frustrating us all, but then to also talk about how we can resolve it and what we can do. Coming together as various different property developers, and it's something that I'm going to look into and see if I can pursue down the line on this. So James, thank you very, very much again for your insight and telling us what Hagan Homes are doing, what you would like to be doing, your frustrations and your challenges. And thank you to everybody that has been listening in. If anybody has any other questions or would like any further information about Hagan Homes or about ourselves, please feel free to reach out and contact us. And just before we all sign off, I just want to let you know that today's was the first of a series of 3 webinars. The next one is on Tuesday, the 22nd of March at the same time, with Jordan Buchanan of Property Pal and with Patrick O'Gorman of Bywater Properties. That'll also be an interesting conversation really about the outlook for Northern Ireland property for 2022. And then our third webinar is taking place on Tuesday, the 12th of April with Carl McTaggart of Clanmill Housing Association and Professor Paddy Gray. So that'll also be an excellent, interesting conversation with those people. So if anybody is interested in listening on to those, please do jump onto our website and register for both of those webinars. So James, I'll let you go. You can get back to enjoying your glass of red, and good luck with your Sydney project. And
can I say to you, good luck. I think you're doing a great job, and I think you're interviewing the right people. Those are all great people you're interviewing, and good luck with all that.
I really appreciate that, James. Thank you very much, and good night.
Okay.
Have a nice evening.
You take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.